This is One on One. We're here with Steve Beatty, Secretary-Treasurer, NJEA. Good to see you, Steve.
Good to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Lots of issues that I've talked to you and your colleagues about, but one of the ones I wanted to talk to you about is this whole ending, quote, Chapter 78. What is Chapter 78? Why should people watching, even if they're not public employees or public school educators, care about it? What is it?
Well, long story short, in 2011, it's a law that was passed that has public employees pay a portion of their health care premium
The health
costs.
and pension reform.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So it increased our pension payments, and then the part we're really more talking about is the health care premium sharing. Because what it does now is it has educators, public employees, but educators in our case, paying upwards of 35% of their premiums, which of course is a skyrocketing cost. Now, we're not saying that educators shouldn't pay a fair share of their employee benefits, but what happened now, you have employees paying $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 or more a year, crippling people that are working on educator salaries, which you all know traditionally aren't the highest. The trade-off as we got in the profession going back decades was you took a less salary because benefits were part of the package to make you whole in this case, but now the impact is salaries haven't gone up much at all, especially with what's happened in the financial world and things that have impacted public education, but the huge increase in the healthcare costs has really crippled where public educators in many cases haven't seen a raise or won't see a raise for years if ever again.
You know, the devil's advocate question is obvious, and you've dealt with it before, and I'm going to put it on the table. Someone says, but the pension system is going broke. We don't have the money. We've got to make these changes. And if teachers aren't going to make more, hey, listen, at least we'll save the system. You say what to those folks?
Well, I say that I understand that the pension system is in trouble, but that's large part not fault of anyone. I never missed a pension payment, but the state, of course, granted themselves, I guess you want to call it a holiday, going back decades and decades. Through all
holidays, otherwise known as not paying.
That's a nice way of saying
not
paying,
contributing.
Not contributing. So, and I'm not blaming it's Democrats and Republican governors all along, going back from when Whitman made the original raid in the pension fund, which at the time, hindsight always 20/20. But we earn those pensions. It's part of what goes along with being a public employee all those years, and to tell people at the end of their career, in the middle of their career, hey, you were planning for this, the way you're going to set up your retirement, which people deserve, is not going to be there any longer, is really tragic. And it's really time for the government to do their fair share. We bail out large corporations, we give out corporate welfare and tax rebates and abatements all around the state. We always forget about how about funding the pension for the deserving educators.
Let me ask you this, your educational background, you've been teaching for how long?
24 years I was in the classroom.
And the subject is?
High school social studies.
What drew you, and I'm fascinated by this, particularly at a time where there's so much, the discourse, let's just say, is anything but civil. Mm-hmm. It's nasty, it's ugly, it's personal, it's degrading, and you're teaching social studies. How do you use that horrific, if you will, and that's not even commentary, you don't need me to tell you that, horrific political environment in a social studies class to teach?
Well, personally,
or do you ignore it?
I don't. I mean, personally, I was very fortunate. I taught the last 24 years, and most of those years in a class called Global Studies, which is Global Studies. The senior elective, and a lot of it was on current events, current issues. We did current events every single day and linked them to the idea of interdependence within societies. And so current events were something that allowed us to examine the world and really bring, seniors, they're the ones going out into the workplace, into educate, whatever it may be. So having them understand the forces at work, I enjoyed the fact that I can engage these students in meaningful conversations about their future. And I look back, I have a notebook where I kept every day's current events going back 6 or 7 years, maybe more. And I would look through it sometimes and think, look at what's happened over the course of time. And of course, history repeating itself. But going back to your question, utilizing that as a way to engage students so they become critical thinkers in hoping to roll back some of the horrificness, if that's a word, I made it a word, that we're dealing with today, so they can be informed thinkers, critical thinkers, and part of the solution, rather than get caught up in the rhetoric and everything that goes on.
By the way, you're going to have an English teacher challenging us online, saying whether horrificness is a word or not.
I just made it a word.
And I just agreed that it was a word.
Perfect.
And I'm actually not sure. But let me follow up on that. Someone says, and I actually wrote a piece recently. If you look on our website, you can find it there. And the whole essence of the piece, which is relevant to your work as a social studies teacher, is that many people believe what they believe, and they very often don't want to find out anything else that contradicts what they think they believe, and only go to sources that reinforce what they believe. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. There are definitely a large group of students and people in society that find their news from a convenient source. You want to be validated, so whether it's CNN, Fox News, I always like BBC News as sort of a neutral third party for whatever that means. But it becomes easy in the world today.
See, I'm right. See, they look at it. See, I'm right. Now, as a social studies teacher, I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's right.
How do you teach students that even if you think you believe this, that reading someone else's point of view is part of being a, quote, you use the term critical thinker. How do you even teach that?
What I try to do is, listen, if this is what you believe, you truly believe in whatever that opinion is, and you found someone that agrees with you, my point to them is, find someone that doesn't agree with you, because you only improve your own argument when you understand fully the counterpoint of somebody else.
Steve, I'm sure you wanted to talk about a whole range of issues, but this issue's not just been on my mind, but a lot of people watching are asking, how can we improve the quality of our public discourse, and what is the role of educators, particularly teachers, educators in social studies, to help our students be more open-minded, dare I say, and I thank you for indulging me and our audience. Thank you, Steve.
I appreciate it, Steve.
Well
Pleasure.
done.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by New Jersey Sharing Network, Wells Fargo, Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey, NJM Insurance Group, the Turrell Fund, supporting right from the start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and by Delta Dental of New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.